SBIR is a program that Congress actually set up going back to 1982. And the goal of the program is to actually fund small businesses in multiple disease areas. Our focus is on cancer since we're at the NCI, but the goal of the program is to fund the translation of the most promising research coming out of academia and to transfer those technologies out to small business so we can eventually commercialize them and get them out to patients. So the size of our program is, this year it's going to be about $170 million. At any given time we're funding about 400 different projects. That cuts across the areas of new drug development, new diagnostics, new imaging technologies, new ways of treating cancer such as radiation therapy, as well as areas such as research tools and digital health. So it's a very broad-based program. If you look at when a company would typically apply for funding from us, oftentimes it's soon after they've actually formed. Most of the companies that apply for funding from us, they're usually 5 people or less when they first get started, and our goal is to provide funding to really help build the company and demonstrate and validate the technology that they're developing. So if you look at it, we really fund companies across the board. I have just a couple of examples I can share with you. We're funding this one company called Chronotherapeutics, company that we've been funding for about 7 years now, and they're actually developing a technology that's going to be a replacement for nicotine replacement therapy. And it's actually this device that a patient would actually wear on their arm, and it provides nicotine replacement time to whenever that patient's cravings are going to be the strongest. So it has a benefit over the patch. The patch gives you continuous nicotine replacement. This one, the benefits are that it's actually timed to pulse when the patient actually needs it the most. So for example, when you're waking up in the morning and you're hungry, that can oftentimes be when your cravings are the strongest. So it'll have a benefit over the patch because that has some side effects that this technology actually won't have. So that technology is actually going through clinical trials right now, and we're hoping it's going to be a product in the next couple of years. We provided the initial funding, and that company is now, because NCI put the funding in on the front end, the company has now been able to actually go out and raise over $80 million in private capital. So the key is with the NCI and with what we try to do is we put the initial seed funding in to get the company going to prove out the technology, and as that technology is demonstrated and as it moves into clinical trials as an example, that company then has enough data to then go out and raise additional capital, because our funding is never going to be enough to get them all the way to the commercialization of a product and get a product out to patients, but we're trying to de-risk the technology enough to help them get where they need to be. Yeah, so we get very involved all the way on the front end. So when teams would like to apply for funding from SBIR, oftentimes they haven't applied to the NIH before. So one thing we offer everyone who wants to apply for SBIR funding is we'll actually get on the phone with them and we'll ask them to send us the specific aims for a project that they would like to pursue, and we'll review it and we'll say, is this a good fit for SBIR or not? And then we'll advise them on what are the things that they should really be thinking about in terms of building their application. So we want to see them demonstrate that there's a real unmet need out in the community that's not currently being met. So they need to demonstrate the significance of that project. They need to show us the innovation that they're accomplishing with the goals of the project. So it's just not like another Me Too kind of technology. They need to show us the strength of their team, how strong the team is that they've actually built for the technology. And then they also need to demonstrate the market for that technology. And we really kind of help walk them through the whole process of how to build a good proposal. Another thing that we do is we're very active in outreach. We do events like here at AACR where we go out. We probably do about 50 different events around the country where we'll go and we'll just meet with companies. We'll give them an overview of the program, and then we'll sit one-on-one with those companies, and we'll learn about their technology, and then we'll advise them on an application. In addition to kind of providing that type of advice, we also run other kinds of programs within the SBIR program. We run a program called Innovation Corps. Also, we call that program I-Corps for short. And that's an entrepreneurship training program that we offer to our startup companies that really teaches them how to build a business model around the technology that they're developing. And the reason that's such an important resource to offer to companies is most of the companies we fund, they're academic startups. They don't have a lot in the way of business training. So I-Core, over the course of an 8-week program, it teaches the company how to go about analyzing what is the real value proposition around the technology that they're developing. What is it that's unique about the technology that they're developing that can offer a solution to a patient need, for example, that isn't currently being met. And it also helps them to define who are their real customers. For example, what cancer indication could that technology actually be best targeted at in order to meet a patient need? And then what's the market around that technology? And then it also teaches them how to go about building strategic partnerships with larger companies that ultimately they're going to need to be successful. So it really is a nice comprehensive program that we have found helps when companies come out of the training that they go through the I-Core program. The whole company and the business model, they've really transformed so that they're going in a really positive direction after they come out. And they're much smarter on the technology and the business side. And we've seen a lot of our companies that have been successful coming out of the program. And I'll just give you an example. We first offered this program back in 2014. We had 19 companies go through that first program. Out of those 19 companies, 4 commercial products have already been launched. And those companies have actually been able to go out and raise over $81 million in funding from private investors. So that's just, kind of in a nutshell how some of the companies benefit. Yeah, so we offer other resources for our companies. We run a program, we call it our Investor Initiatives Program. So I mentioned that all these companies, they need to be able to go out and raise other capital in addition to just government funding. So we build relationships with the top investors across the country. That includes investors from the venture capital world, from larger strategic companies such as large pharmaceutical companies or large device companies. We also build relationships with folks like angel investors. And our goal is that by the NCI building these relationships, we can help open doors for our small businesses that they might not be able to do themselves. And then we make introductions from our top companies that we're funding in our portfolio to these investors. We'll actually, we have a panel of about 50 investors that will review all the companies in our portfolio, and they help identify the top companies that we're funding. And then based on that review, we will fund those companies to go to private investor events so that they can raise additional capital. So we again have found that to be very helpful to our companies in terms of trying to raise the capital they need.